Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Drive Time, brought to you by Auto Driveaway. My special guest today is Branton Juan. Branton is the head of our title and registration area. Branton, welcome to the program. So today we're going to talk about title and registration, kind of an ancillary service that Auto Driveaway provides. So Branton, you are kind of charged with leading this portion of the business. Give me just kind of a general overview of what does that mean? What are the services that we provide?
Yeah, sure. So we offer a number of services. So we will do initial title and registration requests. We will do state to state transfers. We offer registration renewals. And we can also help with some duplicate title assistance.
Right. So these are all kind of things obviously that need to be done. Sometimes they're, a pain. You've got to deal with a bunch of moving parts, right? You have to deal with the DMV or some, related organizations. How do we help alleviate that, and what's the advantage that we offer?
So we have two competitive advantages. The first is we have plate inventory in a number of states. 7 different states. And what that means is we are able to act on behalf of the DMV and issue license plates, which results in a faster turn time. The second advantage we have is we have locations in many different states. So we have the ability to physically visit DMV or county locations in order to expedite the process and often get plates over the counter and the same day that we walk in.
Wow. So think about that even just as a consumer and everybody hates going to the DMV and you got to wait in line and then inevitably you don't have the right this or the that. And so those are really huge points of advantage for us in that not only do we have, for lack of a better term, kind of boots on the ground in a lot of these states, and we physically send people right to the DMV, right, to kind of take care of that for them. And then to your point, I love the idea that in some states we can actually issue license plates through Auto Driveaway. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And how unique is that? Like in the other organizations that do this, or certainly other driveway companies, I'm imagining that that's pretty unique to us.
There are a number of different agencies that have the same capabilities. However, they are often limited to just one state, whereas we have a number of states that we can issue for.
And tell me a little about this idea of state to state, meaning, somebody purchases a car in one state, but maybe they're gonna drive it and register it in another. I mean, that's kinda sometimes a tricky situation, but that's something we can help out with too, right?
Yeah, sure. So state to state transfers is something we definitely help out with. What that looks like is a driver is titled and registered in one state, and then that fleet management company or driver might relocate to another state, and we have to transfer the title and registration to that new state.
Right. So, I mean, talk about taking something off of their plate. So, primarily, who are we working with today? Are we working primarily with, you know, um, fleet management companies and maybe fleet managers at large organizations? Is that kind of our typical customer for this?
Yeah, a majority of our work today comes from fleet management companies. However, we do have a number of large dealer groups that we are working with as well in new partnerships.
So, Brent, that makes a ton of sense that not only can we provide the title and registration services for our fleet customers and our fleet management company customers, but this is also something that has application for car dealerships. So I think that's a really interesting new area that we can push into helping car dealers as they are moving vehicles, through their dealership and helping their customers get their registration and their titling much more quickly and much more easily.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the biggest competitive advantages we have is physical presence. So actually going to the DMV versus doing mail in. Mail in oftentimes takes much longer. It's processed in the order that it's received. And in the event that the paperwork is rejected, that process will start all over again.
Right. So then you're kind of back to square one and that DMV circle of death, if you will, right? I mean, so how have people responded to this? Is this is because this is maybe not something new, but really something, newer that we're out there really as an additional service from Auto Driveway? How have people responded?
We have an excellent partnership with our fleet management companies. They recognize the states that we do well with our competitive advantages. Certainly, there are other service providers out there that do title and registration. However, we pride ourselves on our quick turn time, accuracy, responsiveness, and customer service.
Brandon, anything else in closing that you would say? I mean, this, like I said, this sounds like, something that certainly is valuable to our customers and something we can be out there talking about. How have you found, like I said, you had mentioned how people were receiving this, but where do you see us going with this in the future?
I definitely see us expanding our relationships with dealerships and dealer groups, focusing on on those out of state transactions, really from a turn time perspective. And the reason that's important is because these out of state drivers are issued a temporary tag from the dealership. And that's sort of the clock that we have in order to get title and registration process. With the concept being that the registration metal plates are secured prior to that expiration of that tent tag, because that can really upend the customer experience.
Yeah, sure. So to your point, the clock is kind of ticking once they initially start that, and it's a race to make sure that they get everything they need, and because we can be more efficient, we can make sure that there's no, you kind of alleviate that stress, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, very cool. I mean, I think, a new frontier for us and a very cool offering for our customers. So, Brandon, thanks so much for joining me today. It was so interesting to learn more about title and registration and how we can provide those services for all of our customers, car dealerships, as well as our fleet customers. So, really cool, interesting stuff, and excited about where we go from here. So, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.